Radio, the voice of Southern Gospel Music. It is Greg Goodman, and we are so happy to have Gary Casto of Tribute Quartet in studio with us today. How you doing, Gary?
Hey, Greg, I'm doing great. Good to be here with you.
Yeah, man. You guys are on the cover of the June Singing News magazine, and the story inside is Living the Stories. And, you know, well, it sounds like, oh, that's a cool article, but there's more to it than that. That's actually the name of the new CD coming out, right?
It actually is. And when Singing News approached us about having a cover, which we're so thrilled and excited about, over the years, I've had different magazine covers with Singing News, the covers, and the stories always led to certain things going on with the group at the time. But we wanted to go back and share our stories of how we were brought into gospel music, our salvation experience, what led us to start singing gospel music. And then when we take our story night after night, Greg, to the listening audience, then they come up and share their stories. Mm-hmm. So our stories, our platform creates moments with the fans where they feel comfortable to share their stories, and it's quite an experience.
Well, let's start with your story. So you were in church, 7 years old, Squire Parson and the Kingsmen come to town.
Well, actually, it was Squire Parsons and the Cavalrymen
Quartet.
He had a group back home in West Virginia. A lot of folks know that Squire's from West Virginia, and I'm from West Virginia. And at my little home church there in Liberty, West Virginia, Squire Parsons and the Cavalrymen began to sing a concert, and I fell in love with gospel music that day.
Wow. So how did you start cultivating your interest in Southern gospel music? How did that transpire over the years?
Well, for years, our church always sang a lot of the great old quartet songs, even in our church services. And we had a local group in our church, and they sang quite often. So I really, truly enjoyed listening to gospel music. But as I started going through school, I became very interested in sports and started to go to school for sports medicine and physical therapy. Mm-hmm. But my mom and dad had some really good friends that lived down the road, and they had a little local group, and every Wednesday night or Thursday night, I don't recall, they would have a practice session, and one of those practice sessions, they asked our family and several families to come over, and they'd have snacks and everything, and us kids or teenagers, we would just be hanging out, and they heard me humming a song, and so they asked me to sing Beulah Land. Did I know that? And I said, well, sort of. And so they coached me through it, and they said, you know what, we want you to go with us this coming Saturday night, and we want you to get up on stage and sing that song. Oh my goodness, I was scared to death. I said, I don't know about this. I don't know if I have any desire to do that. But I did, and then one of West Virginia's largest local groups was there that night and heard me do that, sing that song. And they approached me and said, hey, we're looking for a tenor singer. Are you interested? I said, I don't know how to sing tenor. They said, we'll teach you. So they taught me how to sing tenor as I was going along. A year and a half later, I ran into my very first professional group that heard us sing. They called me, and I auditioned for that group, and the history is there. And wow. I've been singing almost 36 years.
How about that? Most of our audience will remember you, being with the Wilburns and, other things. And I'm struck as I read the opening lines of this story. They are winners of the 2008 Singing News Fan Awards Horizon Group of the Year. You probably don't recall this, but I happen to recall being at the National Quartet Convention and talking to you in the hour before you won that award. And you did not at all expect that to happen.
No, I didn't, Greg. We were still new. We actually started Tribute Quartet December 31st was our first date, 2006. So I was not expecting it. We had not been on the scene that long. But boy, it was an exciting night.
I was so delighted for you and recall watching just the awe in your eyes of is this really real? And here we are all these years later with you guys having these number one songs and being at the Dove Awards, and just so many things that have transpired.
It's amazing the favor the Lord has showed upon the ministry. I mean, a lot of we've been blessed, Greg, to be able to be a part of almost every major event in gospel music. And I sat back before I was ever on this level and thought, I'll never be able to do that, because I see it's taking groups 15, 20 years to be able to get on some of them platforms. But the Lord gave us favor, and we've been able to do that.
Well, we'll come back. We'll talk more with Gary Casto of Tribute Quartet. They've recently had some group changes. We'll talk about that and get him to share some of these stories that the fans, the listeners, the concert attenders have shared. I know that's going to be interesting. Radio, the voice of Southern gospel music, Tribute Quartet there. And we are talking with Gary Casto. He is with us, of course, part of Tribute Quartet. You guys recently had some changes in the group. Tell us all about what's transpired there.
Yes. Well, back in January 1st, our former tenor singer, Mr. Riley Harrison Clark, Riley had been with us for about 8.5 years, and he's like family to us. But he shared with me that he'd like to start his solo career, and I said, you know what, it's time, and I stand behind you, and I'll do anything I can to help you, and that's what I do. And so we're real happy for him to be able to start his career as a soloist, but the Lord sent us another great vocalist. I tell everybody he's a seasoned veteran of gospel music. He's been singing a long, long time. And a gentleman come up to me, I announced that one night when I introduced him, and he said, well, what does that mean? I said, well, it means he's been singing a long, long time. That's what it means. But he's been with various groups over the years, Mr. Gus Gacious. And I'll never forget, I hired him without ever singing with him.
Really?
I knew what the Lord told me to do,
Wow.
and I was praying and fasting that God would send us the right one. And so I called him up, and we talked, and then finally come to terms of what all we could do, and he come on board. And I remember our producer, Mr. Wayne Hahn, he said, guys, the things that you worry about when you have a group change is creating that blend. And y'all have had a blend. You've worked on it for 8.5 years. But he says, this blend right here as if you've already been together for years.
Oh,
so
nice.
that was exciting to me that our producer had confidence in it, and our record company and our agency. So we're just loving it, getting ready to we're actually working on a brand new project now.
So that project you were telling me will be out sometime in September. It's always around Quartet convention time. How does that happen?
Strategically planned. I know some of the producers start saying, can we not just spread this out? It puts a lot of work on them. But yes, sir, we always try to have something new for that month.
Sure. So you're already pleased with the way all that's coming together.
Absolutely. Our latest, I guess, national project, Here For You, we were blessed with some of the greatest songs that I've ever been a part of in almost 36 years of gospel music. Didn't know if we could find songs that could surpass that album. Right. Them albums only come sometimes once in a lifetime. But after 2 years of searching and looking for the right songs, we feel like we got even greater songs this time.
Awesome.
So we're excited about it. Some great writers, great songs, and we're excited to share those songs with our audience.
Well, just a few minutes ago, we played Everybody Come See Jesus, and this has a little different feel in that you stuck old Red out there in front. Josh Singletary is kind of leading this song. It has a different kind of feel to it, doesn't it?
Well, it does. It has almost a little bit more of what I'd say a progressive country feel to a degree. This song was definitely meant for Josh. Josh is a storyteller. Folks will remember that, probably the first song that he was known for was our big hit, Good News from Jerusalem. And that was a storytelling song. Yeah. So when this song came about, we said, absolutely, this is Josh. And folks are loving it.
Very good. It's sounding great. Well, let's talk. I tell you what, we'll take a break. And we'll come back and we'll talk about these stories that some of the fans are sharing with you.
Absolutely.
News Radio, the voice of Southern gospel music, Tribute Quartet on your radio right there. And we are honored to have Gary Casto of the group in with us this hour. And If you've seen your June Singing Muse magazine tribute quartet on the cover, Living the Stories is the name of the article inside. And, of course, each individual group member's story is shared about how they came to Christ, how they ultimately came to where they are in their career. And they also talk about the stories that the fans, the concert goers, are sharing. And that's got to be gratifying and emotional and just God-given when you receive those.
Well, it truly is. And each member of Tribute Quartet, Josh, myself, Gus, and Anthony, we hear stories nightly. And it's an honor that the Lord entrusts us to be able to listen to our fans and to minister to them on a nightly basis. And after we get done singing, Greg, there's nights that we're standing at the table an hour and a half later, still listening to folks share their heart, their hurts, their excitements, praying with them. I recall not too long ago, a lady come up to me after the concert, and she says, "Do you have a moment that I could speak with you?" And I said, "Absolutely." And she says, "Your song, God of the Storms." She says, "I got to tell you what it has done to my life." She says, "I didn't know anything about Southern gospel music. I didn't know anything about gospel music." And she says, one evening just a few short weeks ago, shortly after 6 p.m., I already had it scheduled for 6:20. Or 6:30. I got the notes. I've written them. They're in my office. But there was a specific time that she was scheduling her suicide. And she said a dear friend come by shortly before that and said, "Hey, I don't know why I'm supposed to do this. I feel like you're going through something. I want you to listen to this song." And she played God of the Storms.
It literally makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up.
And she accepted Christ and chose that suicide was not for her. And she personally come to the concert to share that with me.
Wow. What a gift.
Yeah.
What a gift. What a gift you gave her through your music, and what a gift she gave you of knowing that. And just to know that, all of this has a place and a part that you can't know as you're making this music, as you're producing it. I can't know as we're scheduling it, but God has a place and time that at times I think it's truly arranged for people to hear specific songs and these messages. And I'm glad that you are making songs like that are impacting lives.
Absolutely. Greg, any time that we go into a project, we not trying to sound so spiritual, but we pray and ask the Lord to send us the right songs, because I'm a firm believer we're held accountable for what we say and what we sing each night, because we don't know who's sitting in that audience that's hurting. I remember traveling with the Wilburns all those years. Miss Elaine would always say, "Son, remember, we're in the uplifting business." So we're held accountable for what we say and what we do and what we sing, and bringing the message to the folks.
Let's talk for just a minute about some of the groundwork that was laid for your career with Jackie and Elaine Wilburn.
Wow.
What are some of the other things that they taught you besides being in the encouraging business? Well,
they taught me the importance of loving the music and loving the people. Earlier, we spoke about us winning the Horizon Group, and I had no idea what I was going to say. But when I accepted the award that night, I said, we love what we sing, and we sing what we love, and that's Southern gospel music. And Jackie would always say, "Son, you got to love to minister if you're going to minister. Don't just come out here to sing." And so he embedded that in me and instilled that in me. And he would always be an encourager. He'd say, we need to be encouragers. And just things like that, taking care of business, making sure that every T was crossed, every I was dotted, and to always keep Christ first. That was the main thing.
I love the idea of being encouragers, because I think Obviously, a unique situation with that particular lady coming to Christ, but I would say in many respects you are singing to born-again Christians.
Absolutely.
But that doesn't negate the pain and the suffering that may be going on in their lives. And all of us need that encouragement.
Well, we do. Absolutely. And, Jackie, I remember him used to would always say to me when we was talking, he says, son, just be transparent with the folks. If you're transparent, they can see that we're normal too. We're human. We have our hurts and we have our aches and our pains, and we allow them to see us and see our true heart. They're more acceptable, and it's easy for them to let go and let God have it.
I love it. Gary Casto of Tribute Quartet. You can read more about Tribute Quartet inside the June Singing News magazine, and make sure you go by the Singing News fan club, singingnewsradio.com, because we have got these Tribute Quartet prize packs, and they even come in these special Tribute Quartet bags. Gary has done this up right.
I tried to.
So, make sure you sign up to win those this month in the Singing News Fan Club. Gary, always great to see you.
Hey, Greg, same here, my friend. And thank you and Singing News Radio for what you do, not just for Tribute Quartet, but for Southern gospel music.
Thank you.